Welcome to the DJE podcast, where you will learn about real estate investing from real-life examples. Here's your host, Devin Elder.
All right, joining us today is Scott Smith. He's a leading real estate investor and asset protection attorney and the founder of Royal Legal Solutions, one of the nation's top asset protection firms. He's going to share with us today some specific high-power secrets that enable his clients to not only thrive, but also become effectively judgment-proof in court. I'm definitely excited to kind of dive into this and very excited to have you on board. Scott, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing great, Devin. It's really great to be here. One of the things I really love is working with investors and other people that are looking to, secure up their future. It's one thing to be able to make a good amount of money. It's another thing to be able to hold on to that and then make sure that that money is going to keep working for you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, 100%. I can relate to that in terms of, getting started in real estate investing, especially for those of us that have made it, a full-time profession. And there's so much time and energy that goes into, one, learning the business, going through it, acquiring your portfolio. And for me, it was definitely the case. And I'm sure for a lot of people that there's not a lot of bandwidth in there where you're necessarily thinking about the asset protection or the back end. You're just trying to kind of in acquisition mode and trying to get it going. How did you get started in real estate investing specifically? What was your path there?
Yeah, so I actually started when I was in law school. So it's my second year in law school, and I had me and a buddy that was there in the school, and he had his family had owned a transmission auto repair shop that nobody was using. It was going in disrepair, and they said, "Hey, if you guys want to buy this shop, we'll sell it to you basically for the back taxes." And so the shop was just a piece of dirt. I mean, it was so bad, man.
Right.
But we jumped into it, and I was pretty good at the business side of things, and he was pretty good at the automotive side of things. And so we built the business, really rebuilt the walls of the building from the ground up, and then flipped it after I graduated from law school. So I graduated without any debt from law school.
Awesome.
Cool. And
outstanding.
that's why I fell in love with it. I fell in love with real estate in that moment.
So what were the back taxes, if you don't mind sharing?
Oh yeah, it was like $10,000.
My gosh,
which was a ton amount of money to us at the time. But I thought,
right.
I was like, well, that's a steal. Like we can just get in there and get things moving. And it's always good to have like a little bit of a family connect if you can into some things like that. But I worked in litigation after I got out of law school. I didn't jump right into real estate. Even after that, I was like, oh, no, I'm just really serious about this career. I bet a lot of people feel like that. You're like, oh, this is what I should do. I put all these shoulds on myself of what I needed to do to feel successful, to have the clout of being this high-powered attorney, suing insurance companies that owed claims to doctors that they should have paid. And which come to find out that's what insurance companies do all the time, is that they, collect premiums and deny coverage. But after a couple of years of that, I was like, oh, I had enough of that. And I'm going to go back into real estate. So I jumped back into real estate, hit up a bunch of meetup groups, and everywhere I'd go, everybody was asking me questions about, how should I do my insurance and my banking, and how do I do this entity structuring, and how does it work with my estate planning? So I didn't really want to jump back into law because I just got out of it. I was like, I want to jump back in and be an investor full time. But then somebody cut me a check for $10,000 that had 60 properties and said, Scott, I really need you to go figure this out. Here's $10,000. Go spend a month. Go figure this out. And after I came back to him and said, hey, actually, here's the plan from start to finish. This is what we're going to do for you. He's like, this is phenomenal. This is better than anything I've seen from any other professionals that I've worked for. You need to go share this with other people. And he encouraged me to go on to Bigger Pockets and start podcasting about it. And that was one of the really big launch of Royal Legal Solutions onto the national stage.
Yeah, that's exciting. The podcast channel is just an amazing opportunity that I always think it's funny with podcasts that we've got, HD, cameras in our pockets. We've got all these production capabilities, but the channel that is so huge is just audio, stupid audio. But it fills so much drive time, so much downtime for people that it's just amazing. I don't think we would have guessed a number of years ago that podcasting was going to be such a huge platform, but that's exciting. So did you have a period in there where you had decided to exit law as you knew it, and we're just doing real estate? And what did that look like?
Yeah, so I've been doing real estate since law school, buying properties, right?
Right.
Once I got out of law school and I was starting to get those fat lawyer checks, I was like, you know, what I'm going to do is actually just live really small in this tiny little 1-bedroom apartment in Austin. And I'm going to take all that money and start buying more properties. So I was buying a lot of multifamily properties just because of the the cash flow, and it wouldn't make sense in Austin at that time. So there's never a time that I was really out of investing in real estate. But I can tell you, as launching into a national stage really was a game changer for me, because I then had people all over the country asking me questions about all different types of assets and investing. And it just really was inspiring to me to be able to interact with so many hyper intelligent investors that I could help them with, the small area of their life of asset protection and estate planning and series LLCs and DSTs and whatnot, that all worked with that. But then got to learn from them about how are they doing hard money lending, and how are they doing commercial deals, and how are they doing apartment buildings, and just having lots of access to amazing people with amazing information. And that led me to actually start investing in all those areas as well. So I've actually invested in every asset class. And right now I'm in over 10 different states at any given time. Right now, I think I'm in 12. So it's been this really kind of diversification of information and where to go. And I actually put a lot of my money now with my own clients because they pay me to vet deals. And after some of them vet these deals, I was like, holy smokes, I need to put money in this deal myself. This is too good.
Yeah, that's a great opportunity and a great win-win to say, you're not just kind of blindly placing it with a sponsor. You've already been paid to vet it and go through some of that stuff. And so you obviously feel good about it. And then it gives you deal flow, right? You've got nationwide deal flow, because that's a problem for some people looking to deploy capital. It's like, well, who do I trust? Who do I know? Or I know this one guy in one market, and he's going to close, one deal next year. And that might be all the only look that I get. So the deals that you got started with, I just want to touch on real quick. When you were buying things up in Austin, were on the multifamily side, were you syndicating those, or were you just buying smaller stuff that you were just you and the bank on?
Yeah, so it was me and the bank on some of them. Then what I would do is I would scout out some of my friends that didn't know about real estate investing and didn't own any property yet, and so then we would qualify through their mortgage for their first-time home buyer mortgage, and to be able to get a really small down payment and just get into the property. So I was actively recruiting my friends to get property, and then we would split the property up afterwards, right? They were excited because now they got to own a piece of real estate, or a fractional share of a piece of real estate, and I had money and then they could get the financing for it. So we worked in that. And that's really what I was focused on at that time. I mean, now things have gotten a lot more sophisticated, right? And which is like the really great part is about how do you grow into that. And I've always found that you grow by partnering with people that are better than yourself, right? And know more than you do. And that's why it pays to be able to connect with really high-powered individuals time and time again. I've always looked at it as like a good yin and yang, that I get to work with investors that know a lot more about investing and boots on the ground and really deep subject matter areas. And then I get to be the best person that they know about how do they actually structure all these pieces out, using series LLCs and whatnot with that. But for anybody that's not investing right now, I mean, there's getting into your first deal. It really doesn't seem to matter. Like what, you got to make sure you're not doing something totally stupid and crazy, right? But it's really just about, can you just do it once and then just go across the barrier of actually doing something once, and then the landscape of opportunities open up to you to be able to say, oh, actually, there's so many other things out here they can get into, and how cool all those things are.
Yeah, that's such a good point, Scott. I mean, I always think of it is like you got zeros and ones, and it's this binary thing where, if you haven't done a deal, all the studying and learning and everything, which is good. I think education is really important, but I think education gets you about halfway there. And then the other half is actually doing it and getting in. But once you cross over from that 0 real estate investments to 1 real estate investment, you become a different person. You realize what you like to do, what your strengths are, and you can just kind of keep refining that over time. And that's been my path. That's been a lot of people's path, is you just get started. And then after that first deal, you go, okay, I didn't really care for that, but this piece really intrigued me, and you just keep going. And I can't emphasize enough the partnering piece. You get in rooms with people smarter than you, and you partner with people that are better than you in some respect. And that just is going to cut the learning curve and the time frame for this stuff down just tremendously. You mentioned series LLCs a few times. So is that something you can touch on a little bit to, as I understand it, that's a relatively new instrument kind of in the scheme of real estate law, I guess. And I'm certainly not an attorney, but is that something that you could touch on a little bit? Maybe some use cases for series LLC?
Sure. Yeah. So series LLCs have been around for about 20 years. They're actually so strong that nobody's tried to challenge them yet. So there's no court cases that even surround the series LLC with that. So what's great about them is that you can establish one entity with one filing fee, one bank account, one thing to have to maintain. But what's special about a series LLC, which operates just like a normal LLC does, except for that, it can create on its own what's called a child series. And a child series of a series LLC is just like an LLC. What's cool about it, though, is you don't have to pay anything to create it, and you don't have to maintain anything. So by creating one series LLC, you can actually create an infinite number of child series or baby LLCs completely for free. And why that's so cool for investors is that now you can compartmentalize every single asset you own without having to complicate any of your operations, because everything can streamline through one set of accounting books and one bank account and one tax return, while being able to know that if you ever have a lawsuit against one property, and that they can't go after yourself or any of your other properties. So you get what's called compartmentalization of the assets. That's where real estate investors are using it, but it's also appropriate for any type of assets, because you can hold stocks, bonds, cash, whatever you want to inside of these LLC structures or series LLC structure. And that's how you effectively make yourself judgment proof, is you do what the really rich people do, which is they don't own any assets. They have companies that control assets and they control the company, but they themselves own nothing. So that way, if you're ever sued, you can just really not care.
Yeah. That's such a great point about the bank accounts. I look at the way we've structured some of our single family stuff where, you put a handful of houses in an LLC, not too many, because, you don't want too many eggs in one basket. But as an investor, if you've got 20 single family houses, the idea of having that many LLCs and that many tax returns is ludicrous, or that many bank accounts. I mean, just the minutia of keeping up with that is crazy. But one bank account, one tax return, and compartmentalization, I mean, that's awesome. One of the things I'd heard, and I won't say who I heard it from, but this was a misconception I had in my mind about series LLCs, is that there wasn't sufficient case law and they weren't tested. And I've never heard from, what you just said is, yeah, there's not case law because nobody's even tried to take it down. And that's a huge distinction there. It's pretty encouraging.
Yeah, that's a way that I think that's the proper interpretation. A lot of people errantly think that the law is case law, because that's what you'll hear people talk about. And that's actually not what the law is. The law is actually what the legislature passes, and that's codified in statutes. And case law is just an interpretation of what the statute is. So when you have really clear laws, there's nothing left to interpret. So you're never going to have case law there. So over the course of 20 years, nobody's tried to challenge these things because there's nothing there. I mean, it's plain cut and dry, statutory language around corporations. And series LLCs aren't like a wholly new structure either. They're just really like an addendum to existing LLC law. So it's like a one-page addendum to say, yeah, and we're just going to allow you to have this little extra function called creating a child series, and that's what this means into it. So it really is a game changer for a lot of people in that area. And a lot of people will also get stuck on saying, well, I have all these assets, I have my personal name. And last time when I looked to try to transfer these out of my name, I couldn't do it because I was worried about the due on sale clause of the banks or financing institutions. And that's true. If you transfer an asset directly from your name into an LLC, you will trigger a due on sale clause, and the bank may or may not enforce it. Probably not, as long as the note is performing. But what you can do is actually create anonymity in your ownership of the property while avoiding the due on sale clause by using a land trust. So you can transfer the property to a land trust. The land trust is then owned by the series LLC, and the land trust can create anonymity of ownership. So it doesn't look like you actually own anything at all. It avoids the due on sale clause because there's exceptions carved out for trusts and triggering the due on sale clause with the banks. And whenever you need finance for your next property, all you do is produce your accounting records to the bank when you want to qualify for your next loan. They say, okay, yeah, here it looks like you own the properties. This is the bank account. Here's the accounting records, and they qualify you up just like that. So it's a really neat way that you can get around all of the traditional hurdles that have stopped people in the past from being able to take advantage of these powerful structures to create anonymity of their ownership as well as protecting their assets.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times over the years, I've been investing in real estate since 2012, that due on sale is a huge one. The anonymity is a huge one. The asset protection of an LLC is a huge one. And the financing is a huge one. You want to go for a refinance or something like that. It sounds like we kind of have an investment nirvana that solves all of those things in one go, which is super compelling. Let me ask you kind of a tactical thing on the LLCs. Somebody reaches out to you, says, Scott, spin me up a new series LLC. I've got 10 rental properties that I want to put in there. And I'm going to buy 2 more this year. What does it look like for an investor to create a new child for a new entity? Like, walk me through that process.
Yeah, so typically, there's some upfront work that has to be done on creating the company structure, right? As getting EIN numbers, establishing bank accounts, et cetera.
Yep.
The way that we have it structured is that for clients to be able to close on a property in whatever way they're going to get the best financing. For the first 10 properties, it's always personal financing. And then what we do is transfer it into the land trust owned by their series LLC to avoid the due on sale clause and create the anonymity. And we take care of that process for our clients all the way from start to finish. So anytime a client will acquire a new property, they contact us. Then what we'll do is then handle all of the transfer and the creation of the new child series, the creation of the new land trust, the deed, any ancillary documents that have to get filed with that. So ultimately, at the end of the day, what all of our clients are able to do, which doesn't exist anywhere else in the country, is that we fully maintain all of the company structure for them. We handle all of the asset transfers, we handle all of the ongoing maintenance. So they only have to focus on collecting money and having their accounting records and acquiring new properties. And we take care of everything else from there. That's the way we've structured it. And then what we've done is we've combined this level of service with a unlimited ongoing phone and email support. So now people don't have to turn to the internet or to Bigger Pockets or something like that to be able to just crowdsource information and figure out on their own. They have immediate access to professionals on an unlimited ongoing basis to get direct questions answered. Either that's from my staff that's either trained to answer the 95% of our most common questions, or elevated all the way up to our attorneys, and there's no extra cost for that. Because what we're trying to do is saying, you can offload all of the back-end concerns onto us. You no longer have to guess about what the good information is, and you don't have to pay any more for it. And that's ultimately what all our over 2,500 clients across the country love.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think there's a knee-jerk inclination among real estate investors, and speaking about myself, but I've got to assume other people are in this boat where you're trying to save money at every turn, whether it's a rehab or finance costs or whatever. And you just say, well, I can probably figure this stuff out. And it's kind of a trap because there's so much information out there. But at the end of the day, I always think about what is the highest and best use of an investor's time, and what is really going to move the dial on, if I negotiate $50,000 off a property or $10,000 off a property, that's potentially a $10,000 an hour task that I'm working on versus trying to go out there and scour forums and potentially end up with some bad information that costs you, a million times the dollar amount you're trying to save. When did you guys implement that kind of support strategy, and what led to that? I think that's a huge value add.
So a couple of key pieces, and that we've been doing it for a few years now with that type of support strategy, and it only costs people $49 a month for the membership, and that takes care of all of their compliance and gives them that kind of support. Now, of course, if we have to do a bunch of legal research with it and compose memos or extra additional work, of course, we can't offer everything that we do.
Of course,
at $49 a month, right? But that's where we've set the benchmark, which nobody else offers in the industry.
Yeah.
for what it is. And really what it's come down to is exactly what you were just talking about, Devin, which is highest and best use of time. So we know from real estate investors, you typically are talking about 3 people onto your team. You need a deal finder, you need a CPA, and you need an attorney. And for most investors, they're actually the best deal finder, and nobody can really replace that very easily. And of course, you can outsource that as well too, right? But that's where most people find that that's why they got into real estate investing, is because they wanted to learn about the actual real estate deals and mining through those, right? So the more, what we find is from our clients is that the way our services pay for themselves is much like the way CPAs should pay for themselves, right? It's in twofold. That's one, executing structures that will save you money on taxes. That's how a CPA is going to save you money. And the legal side, the way that your lawyer should be saving you money is by simplifying your structure, which saves you time and having to manage it, which is money, right? Time is money, right, in this game that we're playing. And it also should simplify your tax returns, which is going to save you money on your CPA side of things. And then your lawyer should also be, and your CPA should also be people that should be able to explain to you what's happening, such that they're also your educators, like your private tutor, into like what's going on in the field. It doesn't make sense in my mind, and that's actually my litmus test for hiring professionals on my own, or hiring attorneys or CPAs on my own, is that if they can't actually teach me the subject matter, they're really not masters of the subject matter. What they did is they memorized talking points to be able to scream at people, confuse them enough to thinking I have to buy whatever that is they sell, and then they buy it. And my background, is also as a Montessori educator. I was a Montessori raised kid, and I actually taught Montessori school for a year, and I love teaching. So that's what I do through podcasts, and that's the way we have one of our core values in our staff is that we educate people first, so that way they can make an informed decision. And we always position ourselves to be the most value-based decision people could make, right? I mean, because that's the business side of it. But it's always to say that we educate people first. And I encourage everybody that listens to this to say that if your professionals are not active in being able to educate you, or that they can't give you really clear understandings that a 7th or 8th grader can really understand under what it is, they haven't really mastered the subject matter enough to really be able to do the best work for you.
Yeah, that's a great litmus test. I really like that that education component. It's a great test that people could start throwing out now at the attorneys, CPAs, et cetera, that you're hiring or considering hiring. Shifting over to kind of your real estate endeavors, what's a project right now that you're working on that you're excited about? I find in my own path and people I talk to, we could be in different asset classes, different types of projects, and we're in all kind of projects ourselves. And I tend to gravitate towards things that are exciting, or either in terms of the return or maybe a creative deal structure. What's a project you're working on that's got you, that's an exciting deal?
Yeah, it's actually one that's not going to give me the best ROI right now.
Sure.
So I find that right now at this phase of my life and in this phase of my career and financial growth, is that actually having more money doesn't actually make me happier. So I've hit a weird inflection point, so to speak, that had me asking like a bunch of really hard questions, which is, what is it that I really want right now? And for me, that wasn't saying I want to make the most amount of money. It really turned around, how can I help people the most? So we've done a really good job in Royal Legal Solutions being able to create this really powerful new engine, and that engine is running, to be able to help people with asset protection, estate planning, solo 401k, self-directed IRAs, you name it. And, we basically do it in that sphere. But this project is something that's really different. It's about how can we use combining with real estate to effectively change the way people are thinking, feeling, and acting. And what it is it's working with some buildings that we're constructing out inside of Springdale, Utah, which is outside of Zion National Park. And I was just actually out there this last weekend checking on the construction. And we've created these amazing, beautiful buildings, and we're going to Airbnb them as well as use them as retreat centers for people to bring them in, to be doing two things: combining a love and a passion of nature and exploration with high adventure and adrenaline, and community building with doing things like rafting, as well as canyoneering and rappelling off of huge ropes and some of the most beautiful 300-foot rappels in some of the most beautiful areas of the world, while trying to explore and as part of a community that we create there, on these trips with people, to be able to enlighten them about saying, what kind of insights can we grab from an experience like that? By putting yourself in a position that you're uncomfortable with, where you're having high pressure situations, but you're with a community of people. And what does that teach you about yourself and teach you about others? And have a place for self-reflection, for personal, and spiritual growth in that kind of sense. I mean, spiritual in like in the broad sense, like we all understand that life is a little bit more than just exactly what we see, right? It's about like, how well can I know myself and how well can I connect with others? And that's what that word means to me. And that's what I'm trying to create there. And I think the real estate's actually very important because the location of where you're at can influence how you think and how you feel. So we're creating the most beautiful buildings we can think of, which highlights the ability to see the nature. And I'll send you some pictures of that as we finish that up. But it's just gorgeous, the scenery out there in Zion National Park.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So that's all new construction stuff that you guys are doing?
Yeah, it's all new construction.
Yeah.
It's super limited commercial zoning out there. So the values of the properties from a couple of years ago when we bought it have already gone up 40%, and all the hotels are trying to buy it. But as I said, like they're getting frustrated because they're like, shouldn't you just take this amount of money? It's stupid how much money we're offering you for this piece of property. And I was like, yeah, guys, you caught me at the wrong phase of life because I'm actually about something else right now than just trying to maximize ROI.
That's so cool. And I think it's such a funny thing to hear. I went through that a few years ago when I left my corporate job. I'd worked so hard to get out of it. I worked so hard for my freedom, and I was going to be retired when I was young and played a lot of golf and everything. And then I got to this question of, what is it that I really want? And I realized I'd never had that much freedom or the space to even entertain that question. And I think a lot of people are in that situation of just trying to kind of get through the job. Even if people that make a lot of money, if physician or whatever, they just are working so much that they don't ever stop to question what they really want. But when you get to that certain level of freedom, you have to face that. And that is a big, huge open question that takes some soul searching to get through. But I like how it kind of makes you bulletproof against these offers where somebody coming from another place, it doesn't even make sense, right? Like, hey, take this offer. And you're like, it's not really the metric that I'm.
Yeah, it's not really what I'm trying to go after right now.
Yeah.
What's really neat about it too is the same. It's one of these pieces that's really been true for me for a long time. It's actually why Royal Legal Solutions even exists. And in one place, it's because that the quotidian, the everyday types of desires, for me, that I really, I went through them very quickly and very early in life and realized that actually the things that everybody else was telling me that I was supposed to want, I exhausted what that could actually bring me. And then I asked myself, like, what's next? So as much as that can be really depressing and kind of like this existential crisis of like, what is this all about then? Because I've already gone through everything and then nobody else has better ideas for what it's supposed to be. That led to both avenues, I think, in some way, because it forced me to actually have to push to say, like, what exists in my heart and my mind that doesn't actually exist in the world yet? And can I find a way to give that to other people of what I know is possible? And that's what Royal Legal Solutions was about. We're the first type of company of its kind. And this space that's solely focused on real estate investors, and this in the box, one-stop shop type of solution that's continuous from start to finish. Nobody else has even approached to how to do that to the level that we are. And it's much in there's other types of way too about saying, like, how can I create the expertise and the knowledge base of, like, how do you have creation into something that's going to impact people in a way that's bigger and better than anything else, any other way I've tried to impact people before. So I always look at that for people. If you're one of the people listening to the show and you're finding yourself in that area of your life where you're like, what is this all about? And what is, isn't this stuff all stupid? Am I just grinding away the time day after day to just spin the wheels of whatever I'm doing? My experience in life has been that's 100% true, that you are probably grinding away your time into nothingness until you make the decision to say, I want to do more. And then that decision of I want to do more and the payoff from that is always on the other side of the fear. And if you're willing to embrace the fear and push through it, you'll get to the other side, because once you start to embracing the fear, other people will rally around you and help encourage you along that path to be able to create something amazing that you can be excited about.
Love it. That's such a good message. And for anybody that's in that inertia of the fear, it's a very powerful magnet, and it takes some courage and strength to break through that. But it's absolutely worth it. That's a fantastic point. Scott, when somebody comes to you, let's say you've got an I don't know if you have a typical kind of investor profile that comes in, but let's say, somebody comes to you, they've had some success with real estate investing, they've got some properties in portfolio or whatever, and they're looking to, streamline asset protection, all that stuff. Is there, I guess when a new client comes to you and says, "Hey, Scott, help us fix this," is there kind of a typical kind of starting place that you take new clients through? Is there kind of some quick wins that you can get for new clients?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've helped clients that have 0 properties do the structuring and create the planning for what they need to do, as well as clients that have over 300 properties, right?
Yeah.
So we have solutions in place that scale with our clients. So people that have, $200,000 in net worth and are saying, "Hey, I want to protect this." There's some simple things you can do that, as well as to get going down your real estate investing, path with that, right? All the way to clients that are, $40 million plus people that we're looking at solutions that are all the domestic protections, the anonymity that we can create from using trust, channeling things through law firms. So it's protected by the attorney-client privilege, and also using offshore trusts for that ultimate protection that says, even my worst case scenario, I can move everything outside the jurisdiction of the United States of America and people can't get to it. And then what we do to be able to do that is typically we'll do a quick assessment for people, for anybody that's saying, "Hey, are we a good fit?" We'll schedule a quick assessment to just walk down the profile of, what is it that you're looking to achieve? What do your assets look like? What's your family situation look like? And through that assessment, we're able to say either we're actually not a good fit. Like, I don't handle bankruptcy cases, for instance. So if that's something you're looking into, that assessment would tell us, actually, we're not going to be able to meet those goals for you. And I have some recommendations of who you should talk to in our network that would be good for you, that I've talked to and I vetted before. But if you are a good fit, what we do is we recommend a consultation. And inside a consultation, what we do is we look at all of your information, and we create a roadmap of where you're at currently. What are the tax saving options that you can use? What are the asset protection options that you can use? And how you're going to create the long-term life path that you're looking for your balance with your financial growth. And that creates a game plan for people to be able to use at where they're at right now and where they can grow into. We charge $150 for all of our consultations, and they usually take about an hour. And that we used to not charge for them at all. And what I found is that people didn't take it very seriously. I was really serious at coming to the table about saying, like, I'm going to have amazing strategies for you that's going to link together everything from your asset holding to your banking to your insurance to your estate planning to your solo 401ks, self-directed IRAs, and these things that I've spent a long time studying to be able to put together. And they were like, "Oh, cool." And I was like, "Oh, wait, hold on. No, let's charge $150 for these. That way everybody comes to the table. We know it's going to be serious and high value." But what I did is I said, when you decide to go forward with us, what we're going to do is take that $150 and apply it as a credit. So it's a zero risk way of being able to move in with it, knowing that everybody's going to be serious with high levels of information when they come to that table.
Yeah, I think that's smart. Even if somebody pays $150, then you have their attention, right? Then they're not going to miss the meeting. They're not, it's like, I don't know. It's just something in human nature. If you pay a little bit of money for it, now you're paying attention, and everybody benefits, and then it's net zero cost, throughout the whole thing. I think that makes a lot of sense. That's great. You've certainly given me a lot of stuff to think about. We have not historically, with my company, done series LLCs. We've done LLCs for multifamily properties specifically, and then another manager entity, and then a ton of single families kind of spread out over different LLCs, different bank accounts. And the thought of putting all, for example, our single family stuff in one series LLC with a lot of children and one bank account and one tax return, to me, that seems like a dream come true, to be able to just streamline that. And I'm sure there's a lot of other stuff. You give me a lot of stuff to think about. For people that are listening, what would you say is one major takeaway for the person that is already a real estate investor, and that has not given a ton of thought to maybe, estate planning, tax strategies, all the stuff that you guys do? What's kind of one big takeaway for somebody to walk away from this podcast with?
Yeah. So what I would say for anybody like that is that if you've thought about it at least 3 times, then it's time to go do it. Right? Because what that is when you have these repetitive thoughts that are coming to your head time and time again, that's you telling yourself that this is important. that I need to be doing this. The cost of not taking action on those things is actually latent stress that's building in your life.
Interesting.
So it's you're actually paying a toll for not taking action on these things that you're thinking about over and over again. So whether that's, in this realm or any other realm, I just offer that to everybody as a general piece of advice. So if it is something that you've thought about multiple times and you didn't take action because well, it's going to be time consuming, or it's going to be confusing, or it's going to be really expensive, and I don't know if I can really afford it, and am I really a good candidate for this, right now? That's why we have these really low cost ways to do an assessment and a consultation with everybody, because then you have all of the best information to be able to know what exactly you need to do or not do at whatever you're at right now. So for anybody that comes to that camp, I would say, go into our royallegalsolutions.com website and sign up for a consultation and contact us and just get into that. For $150, you can really put the entire matter to bed to know exactly what it is you need to do and not do.
That's such a great point about the latent stress. I tend to think in terms of kind of two dimensions, right? Time and money. What kind of time is this going to cost me? How much is it going to cost? How can I optimize each of those things? But I really have never thought about it in terms of what is this costing me in terms of, an ongoing stress in the back of my mind. And that could be a huge toll. That's a great metric to start.
Time is only half the equation of time, right? Because time is actually what quality too is, right? Because time and you get a ton of free time in a jail cell and it's not that great.
Right. Yeah, it's quality of time. Yeah. So the stress metric that's a great point. So I love the three times rule. So you mentioned the website. Is there, for anybody watching, listening, they can hit the website? Any other ways to kind of reach out to you and connect with you and your firm?
Yeah, so you can always call us at our phone number, which is the 512-757-3994. And we also have a top 10 things you need to know about asset protection ebook that we send out via a text message to everybody. If you text Royal, ROYAL, to 474747, we'll send you out a link for that ebook, and it'll be the top 10 things you need to know about asset protection. It's my top 10 favorite strategies that I use. So I would say for everybody, I would either go to the royallegalsolutions.com website. We actually have a live chat there with live people that I've coached into here's what you need to know to be able to help people at least the initial stage. So hit those people up and ask them any questions that come to your mind. They're going to be able to help you via our web chat, the royallegalsolutions.com website. Call us at the 512-757-3994. We'll be able to do that assessment with you to see if you're a good candidate or if this even is an avenue you need to be looking at right now for wherever you're at as a real estate investor. Or you can text into the Royal, ROYAL, to 474747 and get that top 10 things you need to know about asset protection ebook.
Awesome. Sounds like you guys really have a lot of tools here to get people a little further down the road on the education piece. Scott, I could probably talk to you all day. I have a lot of other questions for you, but I guess if people have questions, they can take it offline here and reach out to you guys directly. Really appreciate your time. Great connecting, and look forward to following up with you, after the call and some of this stuff.
Yeah, thanks, Evan. Good to hang out with you.
All right, take care.
Thank you for listening to the DJE podcast. For more information, please go to djetexas.com.